whenever an individual or an organization is at a juncture when they're embarking on a certain journey, it is a very significant milestone and one that is usually incredibly exciting. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's easy. In fact, quite the opposite. There are challenges, it's arduous. But along with that, the process of beginning anything comes with immense amount of excitement, hope, optimism, experimentation, learnings, insights, so on and so forth. And the individual joining us today is, in fact, at that professional juncture. Not only is Arshiya in the process of sort of proliferating and propagating her movement led psychology practice, but also is someone who is now, I suppose, taking a lot of her experience both in the realms of dance and movement and her scholastic insights and knowledge of the subject of psychology, marrying them together, along with ostensibly drawing from various other disciplines and sort of formulating her own unique ethos of healing and support. And it's very exciting that she's joining us at this particular crossroads because there'll be a lot to discuss from a slightly more unique perspective than our usual dialogues. Arshiya Sharma is somebody who is a dancer, a qualified trained dancer in many, many forms of dance. She's a psychologist, and amongst many other hats that she also wears, which we will touch upon. It's sort of always exciting for us at Driveway Devi, as most of you regular watchers will know, that whenever there is a relatively young individual who chooses to inhabit this realm of mental health, we are filled with optimism and hope. So I'm very, very grateful and thankful to Arshiya for making the time at a time when she has a deficit of time. And I would like to welcome her. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Karthik, for inviting me. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
My pleasure entirely. Now, like I said, Arshia, and I meant it, we are
Mhm.
always enthused when we see, a fresher sort of very consciously choosing to inhabit the realm of mental health and become a mental health professional. Before we sort
Mhm.
of get into the dance part of it and your therapeutic practice, we'd love to know a little bit about why you chose to come into this sphere of work in the first place.
All right. So, Karthik, let me put it in this way. This realm of mental health, I didn't choose it, it chose me.
Hmm.
Yes. So, during my school days, I was a very curious child. I was always interested to understand the intricacies of human mind and behavior. I was always an average student, never interested in the academic syllabus, typical academic syllabus. I was always interested in reading books like The Secret, how to, read your subconscious mind, Rig Veda, Mandukya Upanishads. So that is what, drove me towards this field to understand mind, that what exactly mind is, how does it work, and how one can use various therapeutic techniques to heal it. So that was it. That was my main reason to get into this field of mental health realm.
It's a wonderful reason because philosophical and intellectual curiosity are
Mhm.
amongst some of the best reasons to pursue something. Now, the other thing I want to sort of get your views on, because I think it's fairly important, uh, not just because you're a woman and you happen to belong to a gender which, by and large, if I may be brutally honest, has been sort of
Mhm.
slighted and diminished and marginalized in a lot of ways by society and Indian society. but
Hmm.
also because, by and large, for human beings itself, I think you might agree, as somebody who's a keen observer of human behavior, that there is
Hmm.
a need that a lot of people in society have to kind of, shoehorn an individual into a particular box and label it rather neatly. I think it helps us process that person better, and it leads to some amount of discomfort when one has to write multiple labels. Now you're someone who has, let me say, had the gumption and the courage to sort of flirt with many of the talents and passions that you see in and for
Hmm.
yourself, some of them being quite different from one another. I want to simply understand where this comes from, because consciously or unconsciously, one requires a certain amount of resolve and resilience to do that.
Yes, yes. So I wouldn't say that the resilience came immediately. I also suffered a lot. And a lot of people, using terms like confusion, getting into multiple domains, multiple paths. So that was something which used to irritate me and confuse me. But there came a point, there came an epiphany in my life where I just felt that it is the limitation of the mind to shoehorn and provide labels. And I think that creativity is something which cannot be constricted and restricted into certain labels. So one needs to break through that and one needs to embrace their own complexity. If something is rare, people just, term it as there's something wrong in that person. There is something off. But it's just rare. That person is just embracing some, complexities in their life. So I don't know. To be very honest, I don't have the right words to express this, but there was something within me, I would say self belief, which drove me towards this path.
That's really
And I just
wonderful.
feel,
Sorry. Please
sorry,
continue.
and I just feel in this multiple paths, there's a common ground, a common purpose of growth and evolution.
Hmm,
So,
hmm.
yes, so the destination is the same, but maybe the path is different, but I'm reaching to that same one home, that is evolution
But
and growth.
trust me. I mean, your response is not at all confusing. In fact, it's crystal clear, and you're preaching to the choir, because I'm asked rather routinely कि भाई साहब आप करते क्या हैं? आप गाते हैं कि पढ़ाते हैं कि संस्था चलाते हैं कि लिखते हैं? And I often tell them, if I have the time and I feel like being a bit cheeky, that मैं ये सब
Hmm.
तो करता ही हूँ और हो सकता है मैं कल किसान बन जाऊं, which really might happen. And then they sort of think that I'm being facetious, and they drop the topic. So I understand where you're coming from, but without, of course, trying to delve into anything personal, I just want to understand quickly, Arshia, that was this, and try not to be diplomatic. Was this epiphany and this sort of thick skin, let's call it, that you developed, that, the world be damned, I'm just going to do it all. Did this come largely from the self, or was there, or were there a few particular individuals who, again, knowingly or unwittingly, sort of helped you develop it? A family member, a friend, a cousin, or did you watch or see someone and you were, sort of drew that courage from that person, or was it largely by the self?
Okay, so I'll be really honest. Initially, there were certain influences which came in my life, due to which I sort of, lost my path, lost my way. But eventually, it was my own inner fire, it was my own self belief which brought me back into the path. So, yes.
Wonderful. I'm glad that you've been honest. I'm told now. So there are only one of two scenarios that take place. Either the first one is the one I just shared with you. The second one, if people are being polite or guarded with me, they call my utter confusion, which is actually
Huh.
utter confusion to them, but to my
Mhm.
face, they are polite enough to call it diversity. So I take that as a compliment quietly and move on. All right, now let's come to dance. But before discussing sort of what you're trying to do with it in terms of a therapeutic modality, you've been
हाँ जी.
dancing for very, very long and you've had exposure. You've been sort of blessed that you've had exposure in various genres of dance and with some very, very reputed individuals and gurus and people. I want to just understand from you a little bit about your own personal dance journey. Where and when did it start? How? Again, these are things that usually we are not sort of born with. We are influenced. Either we watch a family member again, or how did it start? And, sort of the key highlights of that journey, if you will.
All right. So, me dance ki journey started when I was 7. So, I joined Shamak Davar's Institute of Performing Arts, and at a very young age, I got an exposure, a big exposure. So, I also participated in various events like Commonwealth Games, Greenies Award. But initially, my dance journey was more about competitiveness, being at the center stage, being the best out of all.
Hmm.
And also during my initial dance journey, I was bullied as well um, on my looks. I remember my instructor used to call me baby elephant in front of all my, friends. So I was a little healthy. At that time, it was very, very painful because my whole focus was not in dancing, but to just, um, on those harsh words that my instructor used. But
Hmm.
later on, as I joined my college dance society, Verve Dance Crew, more than individualistic dancing, it taught me team spirit and coordination. Initially, again, I'll be very honest, I was more like I want to be at the center, I want to be the best dancer. But then over the period of time, I understand what coordination is, what team spirit is. And then I sort of learned salsa and bachata, which deepened my understanding of coordination, flow, and team spirit. And then I started learning Kathak, which deepened my roots. It helped me understand the ancient lineage of our culture and what Kathak is really all about. So, yes, that is it. That was my journey. And talking about my spiritual journey, it is something which is very personal and I'm not very comfortable sharing it. I want to keep it to myself.
Absolutely. I completely appreciate and understand that. In fact, I regularly take issue with a lot of people, and I understand that they're probably well meaning. But the moment any sort of talent is spotted in anyone, the first
Hanji.
piece of advice is to sort of try and monetize it. And, there are just some things that one does sanctimoniously for oneself. Just to sort of give oneself that unbridled joy, and you don't want to share it with anybody, and that's perfectly understandable and in fact quite important. But I do want to ask you whether this, and thank you for having been so sort of honest about it, this sense of competition that you experienced formatively, was it again a consequence you feel of trying to carve out an identity for yourself, or was it more governed by external forces such as pressure from various quarters?
All right. So I wouldn't choose one part, but it was both.
Hmm.
Intrinsically, the urge to be the center of the universe you know, and at the same time, influence as well that, you need to do the best, you need to win this, and you need to be at the center and the front line. So both the aspect, it played an important role in
Mhm.
this.
Well, I'm glad you got over it because, as I mean, I of all people don't need to tell you of all people that, particularly when it comes to the arts, and my wife and I try and tell our daughter Krisha this all the time because, particularly, I think Gen Alpha is very deeply concerned and sometimes only with the result, that it is in fact the journey and the process that are really the rewards and worth relishing and noticing in a slow burn kind of manner. rather than what happens at the end of it. So that's good. Let's come then to your fundamental decision to use and incorporate dance movement into your practice as a mental health professional, and your views on body wisdom. In fact, most people, including myself, if I may be perfectly honest, have a very vague sense of what body wisdom means in the first place.
Okay, so in simple words, body has its own intelligence. So sometimes your body picks up on sensation much, much faster than your mind.
Hmm.
So most of us have forgotten to trust our bodies. So that is what which intrigued me to delve more deeper into this, aspect of therapy. Because as a dancer, I just felt that sometimes my intuition and my body was much more faster in signaling the messages and the threats in my environment. So I always had this urge to amalgamate dance with therapeutic, modalities by using various somatic movements and using various body movements to let go of the stored traumas in our body. So that is something which intrigued me, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't really carved out or structured this concept. I'm still exploring, I'm still learning, and I'm still at the stage of trial and error method. So this is something which, led me towards this.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. But, I think I might have shared with you when we were sort of discussing this conversation earlier and what to weave it around. And I remember mentioning to you that so many, or let me not say so many, an increasing number of newer people who are coming into mental health are now sort of trying to evolve and birth their own hybrid modalities which do draw influences oftentimes from uh, even philosophies that would on the face of it seem to have certain contradictions, because there is this marriage of the east and west that's happening. There is a marriage of so many different things, and I think it's by and large a very good development that is taking place, because you really are then in a position to offer something which is a lot more holistic and a lot more complete, because any modality by itself uh, for a particular individual may have certain limitations on its own. I want to ask you also a little bit about this. When you mentioned that you're, as of now, as we speak, in the process of sort of figuring things out and really allowing yourself to crystallize your thoughts and ideas in terms of what modality this is going to shape up into, that
Mhm.
for others at a similar stage, what are some very, very critical elements and considerations that they should keep in mind? I'm not talking about someone who's necessarily trying to evolve a movement or dance led modality, but any kind of modality which is going to become an amalgam of several other things at the beginning of their respective practices. What are some
Mhm.
things that they should keep in mind, and what are some things perhaps they can guard against?
All right. So I think I wouldn't be the right person to answer this because as of now, I am not really sure my modality will work or not work. And so the I think the advice that I want to give is just be bold and just do it. Don't overthink and don't just try to look for try to structurize, try to ask for opinions and advice. The more you ask for opinions and advice from elders and professionals around, the more polluted your original idea gets eventually.
Mm,
So
so
it's
true.
better to just listen to your gut. Just listen to your gut, take that bold action, and just give it a try.
See, you're
Yes,
not the
right or
wrong
wrong with
person.
consequence.
You're not the wrong person to have asked this question too, because that very, very important response could have only come from you and from someone at your stage, because that is so true. Because one is at a stage where one is, naturally, and it's understandable, probably a bit unsure, probably second guessing oneself. There is a
Yes.
tendency to seek multiple opinions, and then slowly and slowly, and without even realizing it sometimes, one's original thought gets so adulterated, so contaminated, and so diluted it barely exists anymore. So that's very, very important to sort of guard that and protect it. Um, I do want to ask, and I'm sort of going back to dance itself because I think that's an appropriate way of concluding our dialogue. Uh, what we haven't talked about really, and what I want you to share with people listening, is that
Mhm.
when, forget the modality, forget everything. When you are dancing, when you as an individual specifically are dancing, what does that do to you or for you? What do you feel? What do you experience?
All right. So it depends. So when I'm performing, so I have a different mindset at that particular time. And when I'm just dancing and going with the flow, so that is what I usually do in nature. So I would like to share my experience in Rishikesh. I was just dancing amidst the flowing Ganga, and the only music available at that time was the chirping of the birds, the thunderstorm, the you know the wind whirling around. So that is a very different experience, and you don't get time to analyze it. So you're in that moment at that particular time. You're just enjoying it, enjoying the moment at that particular time. So yes, that is it.
So from one artist to another, I will take the liberty of calling myself one as well. What I'm essentially hearing is that you are at that moment and in that time capsule, completely uncensored, raw and unedited, and not premeditated, because all of your responses are really sort of coming from a very, very truthful place.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And because of lack of better words, I cannot just, solidify, or I would say structure that experience, because it spiritual journey and those experiences are very personal, and it's better that it's not manifested into words. It is something which is an individual journey, and yes, it's very beautiful and raw.
Wonderful. We are calling this session Gaining Momentum, which is now making more and more sense. I'm giving myself a pat on the back for choosing that title, because it's working on so many levels in terms of Arshia and what she's trying to do and what she has been doing with her life. We wish you the absolute best. I made two quick notes because, I'm getting old, as another psychologist pointed out to me during our interaction the other day, somebody of my generation. So
Mhm.
lest I forget. One is that I learned Kathak myself for 4 years, but the only
Wow.
reason I was able to do that was because of my own Hindustani classical training and background. Because
Mhm.
really, I mean, it's all about the beat. Otherwise, I have two left feet. Although I suspect that if I had an instructor as beautiful as yourself, who knows, I may have
Mhm.
learned a little bit, or for that matter, not learned anything at all. But you should go back to that nasty person who had made fun of you and meet him now. And the other thing I wanted to say was that irrespective of what happens, uh, obviously, I mean, I don't need to tell you that don't leave dance, because that will continue to enlighten and inform your life in so many ways that you probably won't even realize. Thank you so much for this interaction, for
Thank you
making the
so
time,
much.
and we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much.